Hi, welcome back to the Unshakable Confidence podcast. I am your host, Tamsin Broster, and it's good to have you back. If this is your first time, this is where we get super duper confident and we pull out all the things that are in your way of being the person you want to be, without all the patriarchy telling you that you need to get back in your box, because that's not happening here. I have a fabulous guest for you this week. Rowena Wilding is the queen of marketing. But before we get into that conversation, I've got a gift for you because I am feeling really, really generous. And actually, I have noticed a pattern. Been having lots of conversations about podcasting and getting on podcasts. So obviously I have my own podcast, but I still go and guest on other people's. And I spent 6 months last year really pitching to, a variety of different podcasts and just gently really getting more visible. And that is what I want to do with my business. I want to get myself out there more, because nobody's going to find me if I'm not out there, right? If I'm not out networking, if I'm not out on podcasts, if I'm not speaking, if I'm not doing all of the things. And I don't want you to think that you have to be going out doing every single thing. But sometimes when we feel like we want to maybe a bit of a break from social media, or social media is feeling a little bit slow. I know a lot of people are struggling with LinkedIn right now because it's really slowed down and we're not sure why that is. There's lots of things going on in the background with algorithms and everything else. Getting on other people's podcasts is a perfect way of staying visible when you're not sure what's going on with your content. And I really, really recommend it, because you can have a conversation. Like Rowena has come onto my podcast for this episode, and we're going to have like a 40-minute conversation. You're going to get to know her really, really well. And that's a great way for people to find you and people to connect with you. But it's also a really great way to repel people. And I know you think I'm mad for saying that, but actually you want to be repelling some people. You want people to not be your cup of tea, or for you not to be theirs, because that's how we find our dream clients, right? So getting on podcasts, sometimes people will say like, oh, I don't know what I would talk about, or I don't really think anyone wants to hear what I've got to say, or I'm worried I'll stumble over my words. Well, I have got the chef's kiss gift for you, because I have got a podcast. It's called Pitch Power, and it is a free guide of how to get yourself onto podcasts. Okay, I've been doing this for 4 years, and I've put all of my knowledge into this freebie so that you can grab it. It's even got a template in there for the email that you can send to people without sounding like a creepy cold DM, because people are not going to find you. Okay. And yes, sometimes people get asked to go on podcasts, but that's usually when they're a little bit further along and they're a little bit more well known. Or you meet someone in person and they say, oh, you'd be a perfect fit for my podcast. But it's rare, right? If you're at home, sat behind your desk, people aren't going to find you that way. You have got to go out to them and tell them you have something to offer. And there's so many different ways to do that. And I teach that in my Get Known course, which is starting in February. And I go through that in much more detail and actually help you get the podcast that you need to be on, right? But if you are starting out and you want that freebie and you want to just see if you can, pitch to a few like ones that that you've been thinking about going on, or a couple that maybe you listen to and actually you think, oh, I'd really like to get on that podcast because I think I'd have something to offer that audience. Getting in front of people through podcasts is just a perfect way of tapping into another audience. So go and grab that freebie. It's called Pitch Power. I am going to put the link in the show notes. It is completely free. And let me know what you think, and let me know how you get on. Let me know what podcast gigs you get. I really, really always want to hear from you. So on to today's conversation. We are talking about marketing. We are talking about funnels and basically what is the top of your funnel. And that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? That sounds a bit rude. Anyway, getting back to the top of your funnel, we need to think about how we're marketing ourselves. And with Rowena, I love the conversation because she takes us so far outside of the box of what people think. People think marketing themselves is just posting on social media, and it is absolutely not just that. There are so many different aspects to it, and she really opened my eyes to what marketing really is. And she is a really, really good business friend of mine, and I love her to bits, and I think you are going to too. So I'm going to leave it there and let you enjoy the conversation. See you on the other side. Hello, Rowena. Thank you for being here on the podcast. I'm so excited. I need you to introduce yourself though, because I will butcher it. So you go.
Hi, Tamsin. I'm so happy to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Rowena of Welding Marketing, and I create killer marketing strategies for small businesses and small business owners that help you get noticed, that help you generate leads, and help you make money, which is what I'm all about.
Yes, you absolutely do, and you absolutely are. I can vouch for that. I love that. I love it. We have been connected for quite a while now, maybe coming up to about a year, I'd say.
Yeah, just
Is
over a
it?
year,
Yeah.
because we had our first conversation right before your last women's event.
Yeah, when I did the conference. So yeah, we
Yeah.
so we kind of got connected after the last conference event in 2023, and then we've done loads of work together. We've done so much.
We
Like, you've been a
have.
client of mine, I've been
Yeah.
a serial client of yours because I just keep coming back for more, to help with my marketing, and also where my business is going. So
Yeah.
and understanding marketing and understanding what all that means, because I think it's quite hard, isn't it, to like understand. But I can't think of a better person to come on the Unshakable Confidence podcast, because you are all about women specifically, but
Mhm.
everybody getting themselves out there, not hiding,
Yeah.
not being frightened of selling, talking about what they do, all
Yeah.
of that stuff. So yeah, we have just done a year's journey together, haven't we? And I've loved every
We
minute of
have.
it.
And I think that the reason this works so beautifully is because the thing that we've been working with each other on is being unapologetically ourselves, not attempting to fit ourselves into somebody else's box. So yeah, I've very much been kind of supporting you to craft the business that you want to have, as opposed to the business you think you need to have, or you think other people want. Because as we all know, if you try and sell something that you're not passionate about, it's not gonna work. And you've been working with me on unapologetically existing in my own body and not trying to change that body or make that body fit somebody else's view of what a body should be. And I think that when we kind of get together and we kind of do stuff together and we kind of start talking about this concept of living authentically, of doing business authentically, of marketing authentically, of just existing in our highest power, we kind of make magic together. Um, which is why, yeah, I've absolutely adored working with you this year. It's been pretty beautiful. It's been beautiful.
Yeah,
And then,
same.
yeah,
I loved it.
obviously I came and did this conference this year. And when, yeah, if someone were to describe magic in a room, I think that's pretty much the epitome of it. That conference was special. You created something special, and I think everyone that was there felt that. It was a lovely, lovely
And
place
it's
to
it's
be.
so interesting you should say that, because I told you the story about the first one, didn't I? And obviously,
Yes.
like, I'm running a conference,
Hmm.
and I ran the first one, and I didn't feel like I was the host of it. I felt like I was just facilitating something and delivering something, which I did, and it was great. But this year I really wanted it to be something that I brought to life, and you
Yeah.
helped me so much with that, along with so many other amazing women in business that I'm now connected with. A lot of that thanks to you. I needed it to be like the event that I wanted to go to. I
Yeah.
needed it to be the event where women would walk away and feel like something special. And you reminded me about it this morning, and I was talking about it on my stories, because I've been to some events as well. So in the process of me running lots of events this year and seeing how much I've really and really enjoyed that, I have attended quite a lot of events, because I
Hmm.
don't want to be that woman in business, and we all know them, who only go to the events they're running. They don't ever go to
Absolutely.
like other
Yes.
of people's events,
Yeah.
and they never really kind of step into like both sides of the coin. I think it's really, really important to do so, but I find it hard when the hosts or the speakers are very inaccessible. And I think we created something where people could really connect with everyone who was exhibiting, like yourselves,
Hmm.
anyone who was running a workshop, anyone who was winning awards, anyone who was hosting. I spoke to every single person who walked through that door.
Hmm.
And I think for me, it's about that connection. And, you know, the vibe in the room was like, it just can only be described as sparkly. I think it was
Yeah, it
colourful.
was. It was sparkly. And
It
I
was
think
great.
the thing that you did really, really well at that event that, I have seen bits and pieces of elsewhere, but it isn't always a given, is that it was a truly safe space for everybody that was there. I think that what you did was you created an atmosphere where everyone going, whether they were going alone, whether they were going in a group, whether they were going as an exhibitor, or as a workshop, running a workshop, or whether they were going as an attendee, everybody walked into that room knowing that they had a place, knowing that they were safe, knowing that they were going to be welcomed. And you did a number of things to make that work. I mean, one thing I've always said about everything you run is that the communication is just top notch. And again, it's not always a given. I've been to a lot of events that have been fantastic, but the biggest issue with them has been a complete lack of communication in the lead up and afterwards. That's made it feel really scary. And if you're like me and you suffer from anxiety, it can be quite difficult to get yourself to go to those kinds of
Yeah.
events when there is so little communication and so few instructions before you get there. Whereas you go right the way to the other end of the spectrum. You over communicate everything, and I don't mean that in a negative way. You
Yeah.
over communicate absolutely every part of it, which means everyone knows exactly what to expect. Everyone has all the instructions they need. Everyone is already introduced to the people that they're going to meet when they get there, and it creates an event where all that prior anxiety and all those nerves and all that worry, it's kind of already dealt with. And I think especially for women in business, I think there's a real tendency, or yeah, I think it's very easy for us to say, no, I'm just going to sit behind the screen. I'll do my
Mm.
LinkedIn thing. I might send some emails, but I'm not going to get out there. I'm not going to put myself into those positions because I'm on my own, because I'm a little bit nervous, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be safe, because I've not been there before. We can make all of the excuses. But the actually putting yourself out there, especially at face-to-face events, can make such a huge difference. And I felt that this year. I I went self-employed and then found out I was pregnant like 4 days after handing in my notice at work.
Wow.
So my view, or the idea I'd had in my head of what my business would look like in those first couple of years, went out the window before I'd even started. And getting out there, going to events, was off the table for me. So I had to build a business that was completely online and completely doable around a tiny baby. The big difference this year, and people have watched me grow this year,
Mm.
3-4 times the size of what I was doing last year. And the big difference has been getting out to events. And I think when people like you run events where you put people's almost psychological safety front and center of the event, that aspect of comfort, it just makes it that much easier for us to get out and go and not make excuses.
I think, yeah, because what you're talking about there is you're naming the very thing. Like, it is that feeling of like walking into a room by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
walking to a room maybe when you don't know
Mm-hmm.
anybody, walking to a room when you're not necessarily confident about what you
Mm-hmm.
do, or there might be accessibility issues as well. And I know that was something that was missing from previous events,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to make sure this was as accessible as possible for everybody. And it is hard to do, but it's not impossible when you work with people.
Mm-hmm.
So, having conversations with people, I do this all the time, even from smaller events, is what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to guess what you need.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know what you need. But I feel like when we leave that and when we outsource that to other people, I feel like it's cold. It's just not as connecting. Like, yes, I could, run an event that was like twice the size, but I don't want to do that if it means I lose the people and the connection that I create with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's really, really important to me. But I think so many people say, like, take it for granted how walking into rooms, being able to be confident doing that. And it's been something that I've always been really conscious of, because I talk about confidence, but confidence doesn't come from nowhere, and it isn't something that you're either born with or you're not born with.
Absolutely.
It's something that you
It's a
develop and
learned
learn,
behaviour.
and you can lose at different points in your
Yeah.
life depending on what's going on, and other people can influence it, and other things can situations. There can be so many things, and because I've known a lot of women who are confident tell me that they spoke on stages and they've done all this stuff, and then they hit perimenopause and poof, it's gone,
Yeah.
and they suddenly can't even just put out a video, or they second guess everything that comes out of their mouth. And that is it's so true, but they don't know what to do about it. So they just assume this is like their new life, and it doesn't have to be that way,
No.
but it means we have to understand what's going on. So yeah, thank you for saying that. I think it's really important to note that if you are wanting to grow, wanting to get out there, I just don't think there's a better way than just be, unless you're really, really good at being on social media and front and center in your business, and you can really call the people in. But I don't usually find that's the case. I find that people shy away a little bit from both. And like you say, they might send a few emails, they might do a little bit of online, they tick the box, but actually wondering then why we're not growing and why we're not getting anywhere with our business. And it's so
But I
true.
think, I am good at those things. I am good at being an online business. It was where I had to start, and it still isn't enough, because social media's got noisy. Like, over the past couple
Very.
of years, the amount of people selling socially feels like it's boomed, and we are in that place where, in order to differentiate, in order to stand out from the crowd, you need to do something else. And this, it goes in cycles. This is the way of marketing. um there was a time when direct mail just became so noisy, and that everybody was doing it, that getting online was the way to stand out. And we've gone full circle now, and we're going back to, people are coming up with really great direct mail campaigns again, because everyone's doing everything via social media and email, and direct is the way to kind of stand out again. I think that for lots of us, we are choosing to spend our money, we are choosing to decide who to work with based on the relationships that we are creating. And yes, absolutely, you can do that online, but it happens so much quicker face to face. You can build those relationships so much more quickly and more authentically when you are in the same room as somebody. And I think that for those who are really struggling with with making the sales, with finding the right connections, with putting themselves in front of the audience that they know they need to sell to, actually finding the face-to-face events those people are going to be at is going to be a fast track to getting heard by those people, getting seen by those people, getting noticed by those people. And it is, I suppose, it's a big focus for me in 2025 events.
Yeah.
But I think, it's got to be something that people put on their list, if they're at all able to, for 2025. And what I would say in terms of having the confidence to get out there, you're absolutely right. Confidence isn't innate. There aren't babies born with confidence and babies born without confidence. Confidence is a learned behavior. It's something that we practice, and you can only practice that if you put yourself in the situations where you have the opportunity to practice it. And there's a couple of things I would say. The first is, identify your talking points before you go. That will massively, massively help. Have an elevator pitch already created. Know who your audience is and what their pain points are, because it will make it so much easier for you to talk to people whilst you are there. And I think the second big piece of advice I have, which is something I think I've probably only learned over the past year or so, and anyone who knows me knows I've always been terrible at this. And that's, listen way more than you talk. Listen like 80% of the time and talk 20% of the time. know the questions that you want to ask in advance. Have a list of questions up your sleeve that you can wheel out whilst you're there, because people absolutely love talking about themselves, and they will remember you if you were the one who got them to talk about themselves. So have some questions prepared, walk into that room and just work your way around it, asking those questions. People will love you. You will be remembered, and you'll hardly have to say anything. People will talk and talk and talk. People like me never shut up unless you know jump in.
And me.
So yeah.
That's
So
why I've got a podcast, so I can just talk. I can just speak without any interruption.
exactly.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
it's possible. It's possible.
Do you consider networking and putting yourself out there and going to these events, whether they're online or offline? Because I know some people do still do a little bit of online, and I think it's, you can do both. I do think some in-person events are definitely necessary though.
Mm.
But do you consider that to be part of your marketing? Is that part of it?
100%. Yeah, I think that, again, one of the things I see a lot with my clients and with the people that I'm talking to is people will do marketing by doing things. They will have what I would call tactics. You
Okay.
know, they'll create some social media posts, they will write some emails and send them out, they will go to an event or two, but there will be no thought out strategy behind that. They won't identify, okay, what are my goals for the year, what are my goals for the quarter, and then plan their activity according to those goals. They will just do stuff as stuff comes up. And then they'll sort of sit down at the end of it all and go, none of that really worked. I wonder why I didn't get anywhere. And actually, most people fall at the first hurdle. They don't bother setting any goals in the first place. They just do stuff and hope that they'll get somewhere. Now, I honestly believe that you will get so much further, so much quicker if you decide what you want to begin with. You set yourself a goal, and that might be a financial goal, or it might not be. It might be a time goal, or it might be a goal to do with your family, or how many days a week you want to work. It could be lots of different things. But let's say it's a financial goal, and let's say you've decided on your financial goal, and you can see from that financial goal that your current audience aren't going to be able to help you to get to that financial goal, because they don't have the income, for example, to pay what you need to charge in order to get to that goal. That's the number one piece of information to inform your strategy for the coming year, for example.
Mm.
You know that you need to pivot what you're doing to find a new audience. Well, what's a really quick and simple way of doing that? Well, go and find the events, go and find the places where that new audience are, because first of all, you will be in front of them because you're in the same room as them. Unlike, 99% of other people that didn't bother to go to that event. And second of all, you will be in conversation with them naturally. So you will quickly understand what their difficulties are, what their pain points are, what they are looking for, what the gaps are, what the challenges are. You cannot get that just by sitting behind a computer. It doesn't matter how many of their posts you read. It doesn't matter how many posts you create. It doesn't matter how many polls you run. You cannot get that same level of information without being directly in front of them. So if you know who your audience is, if you know who you want your audience to be, number one on your strategy needs to be getting out and meeting those people. That might be, booking individual meetings with them, but it's going to be a heck of a lot quicker to get to a networking event that they're all at, or an awards event that they're all at, or an industry event that they're all at. So yeah, that was a very long way of saying yes, it
No, I think it's
absolutely
good.
is part of your marketing.
I think it's good because you've covered like the reasons why, which I think is what people want. Because I think so often I have conversations with people who say, I don't really get much business from networking. And I'm like, you've missed the point.
Miss the
But what
point.
you're able to do is you've got to remember that every single person in that room will remember you because you've met in person, and that your human connection has
Mhm.
happened. But also they get to know you and what you you believe and what you value and what matters to you. And I think that is part of it. Like, the reason we work together is because you know what I
Mhm.
stand for, you know my
Mhm.
values, and I
Mhm.
know yours. I would not be able to work with somebody who, didn't see things that way, or didn't want things to change for women in
Mhm.
business, or didn't see the things that the systems, the oppression that are in place, and
Mhm.
call that stuff out regularly. I love that. That's why we're connected. That's what we
Yeah.
do. But there's many that don't, and that's fine. But you get to know when you go to a networking event what people really, really stand for, and whether their values and beliefs align with yours.
Mhm.
But also, you have to remember that room is full of people, but they know people and they
Mhm.
know people. And so you connect with them on LinkedIn or all across your socials. They will remember you if they're in a conversation with somebody else.
Mhm.
They will remember what you do, and you can. That's how referrals work. So I love the fact that you do see it as part of the marketing, because I think it is just you're a walking version of your brand. And this is what
Yeah.
I'm always saying to people, is like why I get so hung up on not having photos that are outdated or don't look
Mhm.
like you. Um, having too much like filters on and stuff like that, because when you meet people in real life, they need to see you how you will show up. So
Yeah,
if
they
you
do.
have like a photo shoot with your hair's all down and long and flowing, and you've got loads of makeup on, but you never wear makeup and you never put your hair down,
Mhm.
it will be a disconnect, because people
Yeah.
will be like, that's not the same person. I did it this morning, just this morning. I prove it to myself every day. And I was watching a video that this lady had made, and she said something really interesting, and I went to her profile and I was like, oh, hang on, if I just clicked on the wrong thing, because her photo was so different.
Yeah.
And I mean so different to the video that I was
Yeah.
watching. My brain couldn't work it out. I was just like, have I clicked on the wrong
And
page,
it
or
it breaks trust, right? Like, for me, I immediately feel that that person has something to hide, or I immediately feel like that person hasn't been authentic in that moment. That breaks my
Mm,
trust with them. I would rather someone just be themselves, and not try to be curating this perfect picture of themselves, this perfect example of themselves. Like, I think, I mean, I'm very open about building in public. I make mistakes in public. I change things in public. I
yeah,
am growing my business in public, because I don't want to be that person who's just showing the curated, rosy, Instagram filtered version of what it is to grow a business, because it's fucking hard. It's hard, and I get shit wrong all the time. I'm a mum of three, trying to figure my way through all this, and I get all of it wrong. I get parenting wrong, I get business wrong, I get marketing wrong sometimes. And actually, I think it's really important to be honest about those things. Because I don't want my clients to put me on a pedestal only for me to tumble off it, when inevitably it turns out, yeah, I am human. But B, because there are 100 people coming up behind me, and I don't want them to think it's easy and question
yeah,
why they're struggling. I don't want them to think that they're getting it wrong. I want them to understand, actually, that getting it wrong is part of the process, and an important one.
yeah. You're so right. It's so important. And I think when you listen to interviews for anyone who was like, kind of, I'm going to do air quotes, like made it, like people, who have got like, that, I don't know. I've listened to many interviews of people who are like where you think you are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And they always sort of say, when I started my first business, and I go, wait, what?
Yes.
They never start where where they end up is never really, very rarely where they start.
Yeah.
It is evolution, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
an evolution of something that started, and sometimes it's something completely different.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm in that kind of phase of doing things differently in the way that lights me up, because I think that's so important, is to really really enjoy what you do,
Yeah.
so that you're
Totally.
so passionate about it when you talk about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
um because it comes across, doesn't it, when we speak to
Yeah. It
people.
does.
And I just, to go back to that photo thing, I'm not saying that you have to, like, if you've got a photo and you had like, your makeup done professionally and you had your hair done, and then you don't want to do that every day. I'm not saying you have to do it
Yeah.
every
No.
day.
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, if it's like wildly different,
Yeah.
in fact, that you never really show up like that, and you really don't ever wear your hair down, then I just don't really sort of, it doesn't make sense to me to show up in that way,
Yeah.
in a different way, because it's just a disconnect. But I guess people feel that pressure, like they have to, like, especially as women, I think we feel like we should
Yeah.
be polished and we should have our nails done and we should have our hair a certain way. But we do, we feel that
Yeah.
way. But
And there is
actually,
things that to like. I have been very open about the fact I have a stylist. You know,
same.
yeah, in fact we have the
We
same
have the same
stylist. Big
stylist.
shout out to Sam Harmon, who I think it's probably fair to say has changed both of our lives since we
She's
started
coming on the
working with
podcast
her.
tomorrow, so
Hooray! Like we, I think both of us here are not saying like that it has to be one way or the other, right? That you have to be beautifully polished all the time, or you know that stuff is not worthwhile. Because clearly we both buy into that, and we both understand the importance of, you know, showing up in your best power.
yeah.
But at the same time, I think that this is all about authenticity, right? It's all, and I know that that's going to be the buzzword of 2025. I know everybody's already making fun of everyone going on about authenticity. But I guess what I mean is, your business, for most of us, what we are selling is ourselves. What we are selling is our personalities. What we are selling is who we are and how we show up. People who work with me aren't working with me because I have the best marketing strategies. That's not it. They work with me because there is something about me, about the way I show up, about, you know, the personality that I have that attracts them. There's something that makes them go, yeah, I want a bit of that. And that is your power. That is everybody's power. That is your secret weapon.
Yeah.
Nobody else can emulate that. Even if people, you know, steal your copy and your posts on social media, even if people try and emulate what you do in terms of the business that you run, even if they don't and they just happen to run a similar business, what they can never take is your personality. They can't take that thing that's inside of you. That's your secret sauce. So lean into it. Don't try and hide that light, because that's the thing. Oh, that was gross. I'm sorry. I didn't mean, like, that sounded a little bit too
I like
wishy-washy. But don't try and hide the USPs. Don't try and hide that thing that makes you uniquely you, because that is the stuff that is actually going to make people qualify themselves in or qualify themselves out of working with you.
no,
And both
yeah.
are a good thing. And I
They're
think
both
just to kind of
great.
bring it back to getting out to events, and people kind of going, oh well, I don't get any business from it. I think it's a sort of, you fundamentally misunderstood the sales funnel there. Like if you think that going to an event, that the outcome needs to be like winning business from that event, directly from that event, it's a total misunderstanding of what the marketing and sales funnel looks like. There is no better way to communicate who you are as a person, what your values are, that those essential USPs, that personality, than in direct conversation with someone. So your events are your top of funnel. You know, they're right at the very top. They are where people are going to go, yeah, she was cool, or I really liked what that guy was saying, or oh, she was just so on the money with everything she said, or she really seemed to get what I was trying to say. She really seemed to understand my issues. Or even 12 months down the line, I really need some marketing support. I know I spoke to someone. Where's her business card? You know,
Yeah.
it is your top of funnel, not your bottom of funnel. And I think it's where we have the opportunity to sparkle. I think you said the word sparkle before, and I love that word. Not least because I tend to be wearing sequins or metallics at all times. Yeah, you really have the opportunity to sparkle when you are in that room, literally and figuratively. So putting yourself in the room is absolutely crucial to that
Yeah, I
marketing
love it.
strategy.
I love it. And I think, the other thing that I would say about, like, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, right, okay, maybe I need to make more of an effort to get out from behind my screen and I need to go to some events, obviously come to anything that me and Rowena are going to be doing next year, because we are going to do some stuff.
Yeah, gonna do some
Um,
stuff.
More to come on that. But, when you're thinking about where to put your time, think about who else is in the room. Ask other people where they're going. Like, notice when other people start talking about other events. Even ask the question. Like,
Mhm.
take to your social media and ask your peers, ask your fellow business owners, where are you spending your time in 2025? What events are not to miss? Ask them,
Yeah.
because I hate it when I see people I'm connected with showing up at events they did not tell me about. Drives me
Yeah.
mad. And I have sent messages to my business friends to say, hey, I would have come to that if I'd have known that was on. I did not know.
Yeah,
It's not
Tamsin,
just you.
iconic wealth.
I know, right? That was a great event, a
A
great event.
great
And
event that
and
you
you are
didn't tell
coming
me
next
about
year,
until
right? You are
after.
coming. Yeah. I do go to some good events, but I'm quite choosy about where I go. And
Mm.
that's another thing I was talking about this morning, because I want to feel like I'm going to feel like I belong there. I want to feel
Mhm.
like I'm going to be seen, and I don't want to feel like this is going to sound, I don't know how other ways to put this, but I don't want to feel like it's an us and them situation.
Yeah.
I'm up here and you're down there. And
Yeah.
I think what we need to be creating is more of a connection
Yeah.
between the people who are where we want to get to.
Yeah.
But so it doesn't feel like this massive gap
Yeah.
and this massive, like, oh, I'm only here because I bought a ticket. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
I
so
want that
true.
two-way thing.
Yeah.
So, but I think about where you want to spend your time. Like, I don't know about you, but I've planned out where next year I'm spending pretty much all of next year. I've
Yeah.
probably got space for about 2 more events that I might go to,
I-
but pretty much, obviously. Um, but pretty much I know where I'm going to be spending my time and where that's going to be
Yeah.
beneficial for me, in terms of my growth. But also, I've got to enjoy it. I want to go to networking, that's good, but I want to enjoy it. I
Yeah.
don't want to just be in the rooms for the sake of it. So that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
is make sure that you have a look at the calendar. And if you can't see what is out there because you're not connected with people yet, maybe this is the first time you're even thinking about this,
Yeah.
ask people.
Yeah.
Just go out there and say to people, where are you spending your time? Because you'll get some great feedback, and
Yeah.
you can have a look at them and go, no, that's out of my price range, or that's not out of my location. Where are you willing to travel? Thinking about all of those things and the cost, I think, is so, so important. But plan for it, budget for it, because
Yeah.
it's absolutely how you're going to do business in 2025 for sure.
Yeah. I could not agree more. And I think that there are two sides to this, and I guess that's the last bit of advice I have around events. You need to be doing two things with your events. One is nurturing yourself. So where find the events where the people who make you slightly uncomfortable are, the ones that you are going to learn, the ones where, yeah, the people who are just that level above where you're at, the people who you aspire to be, where are they? Put yourself in those rooms. Like, that is your opportunity to nurture your inner business person, to feel inspired, to learn, to grow. So find those events, and that should be half of your event strategy. And then the other half is, who are your audience and where are they going? Go to those events too, and that's kind of your your business kind of development type networking. So for me, I know that I am going to be at facilities management events next year. I know that I'm going to be at recruitment events next year. And I know that I'm going to be at business events next year, because those are my kind of three core audiences. So identify who it is you speak to and where they are going to be. And that needs to be the other half of your event strategy. So the one half is how to feed yourself and your kind of inner growth, and the other is how to feed your business and your business growth. So, yeah, that's, I guess, my advice for if you are trying to work out where to put your time next year. If you've got one event a month, try and do a sort of 50-50 split and start there, see how that works for you.
Definitely. I think that is the perfect place to wrap this up, because I have loved this conversation. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Rowena. It's
It's
been
been
amazing.
amazing.
Thank you.
And I'll see you all again soon, because I have a feeling this won't be on my last time on the podcast, right?
Absolutely not. Of
Love that.
course not. And you've got your own podcast coming, right?
I have.
Tell me
Next
about
week I
that.
will be recording a whole bunch of episodes next week,
Right.
ready for January. So
Lovely.
yeah, keep your ears out, people.
Fabulous. And I will put in the show notes where people can find you and all your links. LinkedIn is the place to hang out and follow this woman, let me tell you. I will put all of her links in there, but trust me, LinkedIn is where you get the full, what I would call the full Rowena, which is what you need
Absolutely.
in your life. So go
Thanks,
check that
babe.
out. Thanks everyone. See you next time.
Bye.